Good to be with you, Marie. I always love talking to you, and I'm happy to say hello to your audience as well.
Thank you. Same. I'm so glad you're here with us today. As always, this is brought to you by Restream. Restream is a multi-streaming platform, and you're watching this right now on Facebook and YouTube, and I think it's also going to Instagram, but I could be wrong about that. So, Aviva, thank you so much for being here. How do you start your day in the morning?
So in the morning, I have a 2.5-year-old, so I usually start my day hearing his legs kicking at the wall, which is, I think, a lot better than the alternative that other parents have to deal with, which is, a lot of crying or screaming. So hearing some thumps in the wall and go get my son. Luckily, he wakes up around 8, which is a good time to get up. Anyway, so we go downstairs and I have breakfast and he has breakfast, and we just relax a little bit and then go upstairs, get dressed, and start my day. So it's been interesting. We're all home. My husband, my son, and I were all home now. So it's been a little bit of a difference in a routine, but it's a nice way to start your day to see your family before you go off and do what you got to do for the day.
I love that. So he doesn't wake up until 8.
Yes, thankfully. Yeah.
And he just pretty much knocks on the wall with his feet. That's wonderful. That's I think the ideal situation. It's not like he's waking up at 5 in the morning or anything.
Exactly. Yes.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what you do and what your business is.
Sure. Thanks, Marie, for the opportunity. So I am the founder and elite admissions expert at Ivy Insight. We are a college admissions consulting firm, and we also offer summer and fall and now spring programs to support students, both high school and college, to get a bit of a leg up, to develop a passion project, to get a better understanding of their interests and get some experience in those interests. We have a range of placements for students from law, finance, retail. We have students doing research on anthropology. Our students are doing COVID-related projects with Duke faculty. So we have a wide range of academic and industry placements, and we've been so fortunate to bring our first cohort on this summer in light of the pandemic and people needing support with developing and continuing those passion projects. I've had my business for 6 years now. I started it for 2 main reasons. The first is a personal reason, which is back when I was in high school, I had a very stressful application process. And I really fixated on my top choice college at the time, NYU, and I just really racked my brain, and I went to campus all the time. I grew up in New Jersey, and I took the train often to go visit the campus. I met with a lot of admissions representatives and just really got myself into a tizzy, and I ended up getting pneumonia a month before applications were due. And wow. I did end up getting into NYU, which is not the point of the story. It's really more to say that I didn't need to stress as much as I did. I was capable. I was a good candidate, and I probably would have gotten in anyway, even without all of that stress. And so when I looked back on that experience, even in college, it really stuck with me. How could I have gotten so crazy about that application process? And it gave me a passion, even during the time I was going through the process of, hey, I should be helping people with this process. I had this thought even as a 17-year-old. I would love to help people with this process. And so that sort of seed stayed with me. And then in undergrad, I studied music business, and I'm, as you know, Marie, I love the arts, and I still stay involved in the arts. But I felt myself more drawn towards education. At that point, I got really involved in my school activities, and I discovered that there was this ability to get involved in university life on a professional level. So ultimately, that's when I steered my career towards higher education and away from the arts. And it's been a great journey since then. And after I left college, I had a chance to go to graduate school at University of Pennsylvania, and I worked full-time there at the Wharton School. So at Wharton, I got to see what happens on the admissions committee, to serve on the admissions committee, and to oversee some of their summer programs. So I got a sense of, who were the strong candidates, why were they chosen, what were some of the dynamics in the committee that enabled some people to get chosen and other people to not get chosen.
Right.
And I was able to take my personal experience, my educational experience, master's and doctoral level, in higher ed, and then the admissions experience. And I had kind of a fork in the road to either stay in higher education as a traditional, administrator, or do the more entrepreneurial path. And I felt very inclined towards the entrepreneurial path because I'm not the most patient person you'll ever meet, and higher education is extremely, extremely slow. So if you want to make change, if you want to create something, it's going to take you a year, 2 years, 3 years. It's not going to be like something you can create overnight. And as you know, where you're being an entrepreneur, you get to create all kinds of things whenever you want, as you see the need. And so kind of being able to figure out my place or my identity as an entrepreneur was very exciting to me. And so I ultimately decided to make the leap. And I knew I had my doctoral degree as a fallback because I was finishing up my dissertation in that last year. So during that last year, I said, well, if it doesn't work out, I will just say I was taking time off to pursue my doctoral degree. So can you give me a job now? But do that. So been fortunate to be self-sustaining since leaving in 2014, and really have lived life with no regrets with that decision. And I love that I can impact so many more people. And also from a self-expression standpoint, you're writing a book, which is coming out next year, being able to write for Forbes and not having the restrictions of the organization to tell me sort of who I can talk to, who I can't talk to, when I can create, when I can't create. It's just been a life-changing thing for me. So, so that's a little bit about my backstory and why I started my business.
That's amazing. What a story, right? And, having gone through the admissions process and having watched, countless friends and now, the kids, children of friends and every, younger siblings and things like that going through this process. It's that stressful, it's that kind of stress that you can actually make yourself sick. Especially if you don't know what you're doing, because you don't know what you don't know. Right. So what's one thing that high school students can do to make this process easier on themselves?
Great question, Marie. It really depends on the high school student. So a lot of students I work with are very highly motivated. They have really good grades, and if they have tests, this year's a little bit different. Not everybody has tests. They have tests. Usually they are scoring pretty well. What they can do to differentiate themselves outside of that are two main things. One is to dive deeply into one or two areas and become kind of an expert in those areas. And when they apply, they want to demonstrate that impact that they've been able to make. So it doesn't matter what that area is. It could be anything. It could be anything from the arts to medicine, science, technology, whatever students like to do, they should just do it really, really well and do it deeply for a longer period of time. A lot of people fall into the trap when I meet with them later in their high school career where they've just added on a lot of different activities because their friends were in them, or they didn't really have a sense of why they were doing things. They just know that you're supposed to do extracurricular activities. So what really stood out have purposefully chosen things that they really enjoy and have dive deeply into those interests, and when they apply, they can demonstrate that impact and their role in impacting their community. So a tip I give people is when they're applying, they should be able to do an XY. They should think of an XY statistical analysis where the independent variable is the student, and then the dependent variable is what they've accomplished, right? So as a result of what the student has done, Y has happened. So it's not like you can just go to a place and have no impact. You have to have an impact. The second thing that students can do is they can build their connections and relationships with the universities where they're looking to attend. There are a number of ways that students can do that. And I'll just name those briefly. So one is just looking on LinkedIn, finding current students, seeing if they're going to have a quick coffee chat, like a 10, 15-minute chat. Not even talking about an hour, but just a quick chat. Students can find young people who have attended their high school to connect with. That might be the easiest because they can find them on social media or whatever platforms they're using. They can find older alumni. They can also email people if they can't come to campus. And if they do come to campus and hopefully healthier times, they can make arrangements to attend the class and then hopefully have a chance to speak with the professor afterwards. And all of these connections serve not as a way to say, hey, you talk to me, I'll get into your school, but it really serves to inform the student about what the school life is like, what the culture is like, and how that culture may or may not fit with the student. And so that gives the student a chance to talk from a personal vantage point about why they belong at that college. And it gives them real stories and anecdotes about that experience. Now, again, you don't want to go in just with that thought, oh, I'm going here to get a story. But it's really about building those relationships on the way to college to understand where you want to be and what you want to do with your college education. And that's what these connections are designed to ultimately do, which will help you with your college applications as well as in your college planning process.
That's great. So what about the student who doesn't necessarily know what they want to major in? What advice do you have for them if they want to, be able to really create an impact with what extracurriculars they take or whatever the case is? Like, how can they diversify and figure out what they want to do at the same time, really make an impression?
Makes sense. So most of the time, the activities, even if they don't have two super deep activities where they've gone and become an expert, there might be a theme of strength. So maybe they're doing better in the maths and sciences, or they're doing better in English and history, something like that. There's some kind of angle that can be inferred by where the student has shown strength. What students don't want to do is, let's say they want to major in economics, but they don't have a good math score, they don't have good math grades compared to other subjects. That would not be an ideal strategy, because even if you want to study economics, you're not going to show yourself as the best candidate for economics, because they're looking for strong performance in math. So the key is to look at what you've already managed to accomplish and what have been the high points of that, and to choose an application strategy, a major that aligns with that interest. And when you go to apply, you have to be strategic about what majors you choose. So if you're not sure what you want to do, you need to choose a major that gives you flexibility to change what your focus is when you go. What I typically tell students if they don't know what major they want to pick is don't choose the undecided major, because it's hard to tell a story around being undecided versus saying, hey, I think I have an interest in history or whatever it is, because that gives you an anchor to talk about your interests. You need some kind of hook or anchor to be able to talk about yourself in a compelling way. Otherwise, it's going to sound like a lot of blah, because there's not a cohesive theme, a cohesive story that you're telling when you go undecided typically. Now, there are exceptions. There's sometimes where it does make sense because the student has really stretched themselves in so many different ways and has excelled and can talk about a number of interests that they have and be undecided. But in most cases, people do tend to show strength in one subject versus another. And so whatever students choose, they should choose something that aligns with what they can demonstrate they have the interest and the achievement in.
Makes sense. So how has the pandemic affected college admissions, and how have you pivoted in your business?
Yeah, great question. So college admissions is, like everything else, has been turned upside down in a lot of ways by COVID. And the biggest change for the students who are applying is many of them will not have standardized test scores. And standardized test scores have been a huge pillar of this process for many, many years. So that's been a shift because some are stressed that, I don't have scores. Are they really optional? And I say, yes, they are optional unless there's some special scholarship program or another outside scholarship that's asking for the scores. Otherwise, if you haven't taken them, or if you've taken them and you would have taken them again because you didn't do what you had intended to do, then just don't take them. So that's a huge shift this year for students. You may have seen in the news over the last day or so, more colleges are coming out with their plans for opening or not opening. And so in terms of the common class of people who have just graduated high school who are coming in as freshmen, they are facing a host of challenges. There are some colleges that are going online only. There are some colleges that are going hybrid, where they're bringing back, let's say, their freshmen and their juniors, but they're not bringing back sophomores and seniors. And then there was an article and news release from the Immigration Customs Enforcement Office in the U.S. about regulations for international students, and those regulations essentially state the biggest point is if your college is going online, you cannot get a visa, so you cannot study in the U.S. You cannot return to the United States because your college is online, and that's typical of visa rules. In visa rules, you can't do an online class and get a student visa. Right. That's how it works. You have to come in person. So it's presenting a lot of challenges to people who are returning to campus or going to campus the first time, and then different set of challenges right now for the students who are applying to college. So it really depends on where you are, but for everyone, it goes without saying that everyone has been disrupted in some way, and then especially for the young people applying, though, it really has changed how they are seeing what they have to do in this process to succeed. Some of their opportunities have been canceled or moved or reshifted, and so they have to think about their priorities. And of course, navigating all this change is very challenging. So we are privileged to be in a position to help people, and fortunately, people do still need college consulting, and they have stepped forward and asked for our help. So we do have a nice client base of college consulting clients. In response to the pandemic, what we did was a couple things. One is we did a college essay challenge earlier this year where we hosted for free a 5-day challenge where students could come, kind of like school. They could come to school every day and work on their essay. And we just wanted to do that because we felt like, these kids are off their routine. Let's just give them a little school this week and have something to take from it that's productive. And then after that challenge, which we ran for 2 weeks, we did 2 5-day challenges. We hosted several people for a month-long college application boot camp where we went through all the different steps of the application and gave some of those students who may have had less homework, less class time, a place where they could just start their applications and really finish a good portion of it. So we're really proud to offer that because we just felt like there were, people were wanting to hopefully focus on a brighter future, but there just was so little structure. So we wanted to create something that was structured and supportive for people during that time. And then the internship program, or the emerging leader program, as we're now calling it, we also launched in response to the pandemic. As I mentioned, I ran summer programs at Wharton, and I had always wanted to launch a summer program, and I felt like this was the time to do it. There was no time to think. It was just time to act because people needed summer programs. Universities were no longer going to be hosting them in most cases. Some did move their programs online, but a lot of the programs were just simply canceled, and people wanted something to do over the summer that would be productive and helpful, and we wanted to offer something that would help them to build their leadership skills and to keep up their experiences while their plans were unsettled. And our plan, as I mentioned when I did my intro, is to continue the program through fall and spring semesters to support not only high school students, but also students who may need to have a gap year or may need to take some time off in deferment if they're already in college. So we're hoping that folks will benefit from the fall and spring offerings if they're unsure about their plans and they feel like they want to have a community in the meantime where they can.
That's awesome. So what would you recommend? What resources can you recommend for somebody who's going through the admissions process, whether they're a junior or going into senior year or even going into freshman year now? What resources would you recommend for somebody in college dealing with the coronavirus? Like, how can they get acclimated in this new environment?
Sure. Well, there are many articles out there, but I'll have to plug my Forbes column at this time because I do my best to keep up with what's happening out there in college admissions and post articles with, I don't want to say exactly a monthly update, but I keep posting on the current news, and I pick the most important story of the month and I elaborate on it. So if you want to keep updated on coronavirus college admissions, check out my column on Forbes. If you just go to Forbes.com and you search for my name, Aviva Legatt, you're going to find it. I've got some of my articles have essential coronavirus resources, different information, for example, about virtual college tours, information in there about my challenge, college fairs. There's a lot of online resources out there that students and families may or may not know about that they can access in terms of learning about colleges in this very non-traditional, unprecedented kind of landscape that we're living in. So I'd say that's an important resource. If you check out my Forbes column, I have a lot of resources in that column. So I would say go there first, since I've curated what I believe is the best resources. And then I would say if you want to keep up with me and what we're doing at Ivy Insight, go to our website, ivyinsight.com. You can download a document I created called College Admissions Golden Rules, and that will put you on our list. And we do monthly webinars, Ask Me Anything. We actually have one coming up on Thursday, 2 days from now. So if folks have specific college admissions questions for me, for us, we're happy to answer those questions. Those webinars are completely free, so people can just come and ask questions. And I'm always, every month I'm like, oh, am I going to get enough questions? And then I always get more than enough questions, and with more questions to spare. So people do have important questions, and we love being at a resource to answer those. So those are free resources. And then if people are looking for one-on-one support in this process, you can feel free to contact us as well, and we can explore the possibility of working together. And we do vet our clients up front to make sure that they're a fit for us. We're not just going to say like, oh yeah, you're right for us. Come buy our car. This is a really important process. It's a whole family process, and we need to make sure that you're the best fit for your family, and your family's the best fit for us.
That's great, and I'll put the Forbes link in the post that goes up after this. So check out the Forbes column. And you have a book coming out, and you're coming out next year, right?
Yes, I'm very excited about that. So I don't know if the publication date will change, but it is tentatively August 3rd, 2021. My book, Get Real and Get In, is coming out. I wish I had a link. Once it's available for pre-order, I will definitely circulate that link around. But I'm really excited about this book because it's very, as I said, this process is very personal to me. So the book incorporates a little bit about my story. And also I interviewed a lot of different influencers and leaders around the United States. And they gave me some great insight about what their road to success looked like and what the role of college was in that road to success. And so I'm integrating those stories as well as current student stories to show young people that there are many ways to succeed and many paths that one can take in the forks of life that happen. And so my hope is that this book will provide some inspiration as well as some concrete guidance to young people who are navigating this complex world and figuring out who they are and what they want to do with their lives.
I love it. I can't wait. I know it's over a year away, but I can't wait for the book to come out. That's great. So you mentioned your website before, but if people want to get in touch with you, the best place to go is to ivyinsight.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great talking to you. And if anybody needs help with admissions advice for either themselves or their child or family member, Aviva is the person to go to.
Great. Thank you so much, Marie. Great to see you, and great to talk with your crew out there.